our goal was family bonding. And I would say that that was probably the richness that we found, is being able to grow together as a family, being able to see new places.
Are you an RV person? Or are you just RV life curious, wondering how people live in a tiny space with their family 24/7? Either way, this is a podcast for you. My name is Kate White, and I travel full-time with my family and 2 kids and the dog in an RV. Every week, I sit down with a fellow RV woman to learn why she chose RV life and how she has changed on the road. Pull a chair up to the fire and let's chat. Hello, my friends and fellow RV queens. This is Kate White, your host, coming at you from Buchanan, Michigan. That's right. Southwest Michigan is where we are starting our summer this year, and it is beautiful and wooded, and there's tons of campgrounds, and they are all chock full. I love being so close to the water that isn't an ocean, though. So it's like you don't have any crazy storms. When you take the kids to the beach, you don't have to worry about the undertow or sharks or anything like that. So, we're only a couple weeks into our Michigan journey, but so far it's awesome. Okay, this week I got to talk with Gretchen Watson, who is a Southern mama with a heart of gold. I mean, her and her husband were pastors for 12 years and decided to venture into RV life to kind of just have more family togetherness, really focus on their family culture. They travel with 5 kids, you guys, 5 kids in a travel trailer. So, this woman is made of grit and gold altogether. Altogether, that's what Gretchen is. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think you will too. Let's get into it. Hello, Gretchen, and welcome to the RV Queens podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm so good. Where are you coming from?
Mississippi.
Oh, you're in Mississippi? Is that where you guys are from, or are you just camping down there?
No, actually, we are from Mississippi. So since we're having to do some RV renovations, we're here at our home base, which is my parents' my husband's parents' backyard. So we have hookups, and we're able to work on things from there.
Doing a little mooch docking. I like that. We did some of that a couple months ago. So
yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
Okay, so
it's always great to be able to do that.
That's right. I know that you have a bunch of kids, and I want to cover topics about family stuff in a few minutes. But I would love to start kind of like before RV life. I know you've been on the road with your family several years, but talk us through, what did your life look like before you lived full-time in an RV? And what was that lead up to the decision that made you guys take this leap?
Okay. So we were in full-time ministry. My husband was a pastor, probably, I think it was like 12 years, 15 years total but as a pastor, 12 years. So we had, also adopted some of our kids, and they came from foster care. And so after we did that, we felt like there was a kind of a shift in our family. It was time to maybe try something different. So my husband went to a conference for his church, and he came back, and I, of course, they were younger at the time, so I stayed home with them, and he came back and he's like, I feel like maybe it's time to try something different. I'm thinking a career change is coming up. And he's like, and I'm thinking I'm going to need to travel. And I was thinking, what do you think about living in an RV? Well, at first I was like, this don't sound like a good idea. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff. You want to cram all of us in an RV? It didn't sound very pleasant. So after a couple of days mulling it over, and I finally, got accustomed to the idea. And then I realized that some of our kids were going to be hitting teenage years, and we needed to have a really good bond with them. And I already felt like in a house they were pushing away. So I was like, well, maybe this will be worth the try. So that's kind of how it all played out. And then it took us some time to get it all figured out before we officially got an RV and moved in. But that's where it started from.
Wow, that's a lot. So your husband just came home from this conference with a feeling that a change was coming, or is there any more detail you can give us there? Like, Is it something that happened at the conference and he felt like he wanted to get out of the ministry, or?
Yeah, he went and he talked to a couple of people, but he said that it was just a feeling, while he was there, that he had felt like maybe there needed to be a change. He would, we've been doing that for 12 years, being in ministry. And so he felt like it was time to shift. And now, we didn't totally get out of ministry work. We just kind of shifted from going full-time pastoring to kind of like nonprofit, off to the side chaplain work. And so that's kind of what he shifted off to. So it wasn't too far, but it was about the fact that we no longer had to be grounded to a house and to a church and, have to show up every Sunday. And so that's kind of what, that's what he came home with that idea and just kind of sprung it on me. It was literally like that.
Yeah. So I meet a lot of couples on the road, and I'm sure you do too, where one couple feels or like felt really excited about the RV life, and the other person in the couple's like, there was no way I was going to do that, until they kind of had like a light bulb moment that was like, this could be good for us. What do you think your moment was when you kind of came to accept the idea?
I think it was when I realized that our oldest two boys, they're born really close to each other. So they're like a year and 12 days apart. And so they were beginning, I think our oldest was 11 or about to turn 11, somewhere in there. And he was getting into that preteen stage. And we felt this pulling away, slam the door, get out of my life, mom, kind of thing. And we were already having, feeling that with him. And so when I realized that this could possibly bring us closer together, and you hear all the stories when parents go into the teenage years with their kids and, it's not a good experience. I didn't really want that story. I wanted, to have a good relationship with my kids as they got older, especially into the teenage years. And so when I realized that this could be an opportunity for us to bond and have a closer relationship and our family together as a unit to bond, then, it didn't take long for me to be convinced. Well, as a mother, this sounds simple enough. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. So that was probably my aha moment when I, realized the possibilities of what could come from this lifestyle.
And were you guys familiar with RVs before? Like, did you have one that you would weekend camp in, or you didn't know anything? You're shaking your head.
Not at all. We had never been in an RV before. We were avid tent campers, and we did a lot of family vacations going tent camping, but never in an RV. Never even dreamed of it. I will say we had considered the idea of a pop-up camper just because we liked to tent camp, and we thought, well, maybe that might be. And I think that idea did come up prior, like a year before the whole RV lifestyle thing. But as far as living full-time in an RV, never heard of it, never looked into it. So that sparked a whole new thing of diving into YouTube and finding people that we could follow, and we could, see how do they live in an RV with kids. And so that's exactly what we did. Once we settled that we were going to do this, we got into YouTube and found a couple people and started following them and binge watching all their shows to see, okay, what happens next? What do we do now?
Oh man, I've heard that so many times from people. God bless, keep your daydream. I think every other guest on this show says, we had this idea and we went on YouTube, and then keep your daydream was doing it. Oh my gosh. So we thought we could too. They're so inspirational. Okay. I can imagine you and your husband getting on the same page about RV life, because you want kind of a closer family unit and kind of more togetherness in your family culture instead of having teenagers slamming doors in your face. What about your kids? Did it take them a while to warm up to the idea, especially if they're getting into their teen years and their friends are really important to them? Talk us through how those conversations went.
Our youngest ones, they didn't know any different. So they were pretty good with it. But our oldest, the one that was actually doing the whole door slamming in the face, he does not like change. Even to this day, if you try to rearrange the bedroom situation or anything, or say, let's try this instead, or let's do this idea, he's not real good with change. So it's like immediately, no, I don't like it. And then he'll take time to warm up to it. So at first he was like, this sounds like the worst idea ever. And we took them with us to look at RVs. And so they got to see the layouts and the possibilities. But probably our greatest asset is we went on a trip. We took a little vacation, like right after we had decided we were going to do it. We said, well, let's try it out. Let's see if we can enjoy the small living spaces with this many people. So we actually booked a KOA cabin because at that time, they didn't really do renting RVs. And if they did, we weren't familiar with it. So we went with a KOA cabin. It was really tiny. And so we kind of booked a trip to the beach and we stayed in the KOA cabin. And then during the day, we would go do things like go to the beach and go to museums to kind of give an idea so that our kids could understand this is what we're looking at doing. This is the kind of lifestyle that we're wanting to do. And so it gave them a really good idea. And after that, they, even him, he adapted to it and he got used to the idea. And then, of course, the whole moving into the small spaces has its own transition for everybody anyway. But generally he was good with it after we got to experience what life was going to be like, what we were trying to picture.
How long did it take you to find an RV to fit everyone? Did you include the kids in that decision? You said you went and toured a bunch of RVs, just downsizing everyone's stuff to the point that you can all fit in this tiny space. How did that work for you guys? So
we originally wanted to do the motorhome thing. And then after touring some of the RVs, we realized that setup we didn't like the idea that some of our kids would have to be on the couch and the setting up and setting down every day. And we kind of wanted them to have a space of their own. So then we went into looking into like travel trailers. And main reason we went with that was the price point because we were on a budget. I mean, we were leaving a job, beginning a new job. So there wasn't like this padding of security there. So we had to kind of stay in a budget and the travel trailer thing kind of fit in our budget. So we went to look for travel trailers. And then we started finding ones that had really nice bunk rooms. Of course, we wanted one with enough of beds. We wanted everybody to have their own bed. And so that was a requirement. And we took them with us to find them. The one that we actually ended up with, we found it without them. And then we took them back after we were like, oh, we really like this. And we took them to tour it. And they we showed them where they would sleep and they enjoyed it. I mean, they like to be able to look at it and get hands on. And I mean, it's kind of odd, but when you say that you found the one and you kind of knew that was the one that you wanted to go with, it was kind of like that. They say when you find the one you're going to marry, you'll just know that that's the one. And so when we found the RV that fit our needs, we just kind of knew it had all the features that we were looking for, the big windows, the pantry, the big bedrooms. And what we wanted is their room on one end, our room on the other. So we both had the privacy and it just fit all the boxes. And so they were included in that process and, got to tell us what they were looking for as we were shopping for it. But so that's kind of how it went down.
Yeah, that's hilarious. You just talked about finding an RV similar to marriage, but it's definitely like I see the parallels because you gotta just stick with this guy through the thick and the thin, and there's some issues going on. I mean, there's always like things you gotta work on. There's always some repairs to make. So I like it.
That's right.
I like it.
That's right.
As far as homeschooling goes, were you homeschooling before you did RV life? Were you already familiar with that, or was that totally new for your family?
No, actually, we were both homeschooled growing up. So we were familiar with homeschool. And then as we had kids, we automatically just started homeschooling. That was just something that was already our decision, before we ever got married and had kids. And so we were already familiar. We were already doing it. We just kind of changed our dynamic of how we do it since going on the road.
What is your approach on the road with homeschooling 5 kids?
So I still use a curriculum basis for like math and language, but science, history, those kind of things, we do more hands-on. So everywhere we travel, we try to incorporate museums and hands-on things that will teach them and give them a little bit more than what you can learn from a textbook. We still use them. I just am not as rigid about, well, you've got to finish the book. You've got to get all these chapters done, because we kind of take a relaxed approach to science and history and those things. And I just make sure that we do fulfill the language and the math aspect. We're pretty rigid with that, with getting the books done, every year for them with the math and language. But the rest of it, we kind of take a relaxed approach. We have our oldest, he's kind of child-led. So we do let them kind of venture out and find some subjects that pertain to what they're interested in and kind of add that on as extracurricular. And it helps them be able to, be more excited about school instead of just doing the basics. Yeah. So that's kind of, it's more of a relaxed approach. We still do curriculum, so it's not unschooling, but we just have a more relaxed approach. So I don't really take a break at the end of the year. I mean, we kind of do year round, because we take so many breaks in between as life presents it, because sometimes you get somewhere and you have to have a schedule where you're going, and you're doing a lot of stuff, and it's all, educational, but you don't have time to come home and hit the books too. So we take those breaks and just allow for the hands-on learning. And then when we have slower months, then we get back to the books.
Yeah, we're just in our first year of RVing and homeschooling and all this stuff, but we're the same way. Like, if there's weeks that we're camping with friends, I don't really stick to our usual routine of like sitting down and doing schoolwork or XYZ with the kids, because to me that's like one of the reasons we're doing RV life, is to have that freedom and flexibility and not have to be so rigid with school, But same thing, like it's June right now, right. I'm planning to, whenever we have weeks when it's just us 4 at a campground, I'll probably stick with our routine and just keep learning and keep growing and working towards kind of hitting the benchmarks that they want to hit and all that. So, and I've met a lot of families that do that too, because again, like this lifestyle is really about freedom and flexibility, and how it would like be such a bummer for the kids if it was like, no, we're doing schoolwork no matter what. That's not what we're here. That's not what we're here for.
I know.
Yeah.
Right.
So are you and your husband working from the road as well? Or what happened as far as the career change from full-time ministry to financing a life, on the road now?
Sure. So my husband is now a chaplain. And so because of that, he kind of raises funds through churches and he has a nonprofit. And his goal is we help foster families by encouraging them and keeping them in the system to take care of the kids that they've been given and be their advocates. And we've been there. So we were there. We know how much encouragement and how much support that they need. And when we were doing it, there wasn't a lot of that going on. There wasn't a lot of wraparound encouragement. So he felt called to, go out and be that advocate for them and kind of stand in the gap, even politically. So in the state of Mississippi, he's been able to help pass some bills that will benefit the foster families as well as the kids that's in their care. And so that's what he does. I help him kind of on the back side of it all, but he's kind of the forefront. And so he runs the nonprofit. And then on the back side of it, I do the website and, any kind of paperwork stuff. And then on the side, I'm working on digital marketing with my Instagram, TikTok, and things of that nature.
Oh, okay. So you have clients that you serve with social media management?
Well, yes, I do have a few, but I'm actually doing school to learn a little bit more, to get a little bit more involved in it. But I also do content creating for brands as well. And so I've been the last 2 years, I've been focused on building the Mindful Nomadic as a brand name and just just being a staple in the RV community. And that's just kind of my passion. So getting into the RV world kind of opened up this door for something in me that I didn't even realize. I absolutely love social media and making reels, doing videos, and working with other companies to do that, or even doing it myself. That is it's more than a hobby. It's really a passion. And I didn't even realize that I would enjoy that until we got into this lifestyle. And it just kind of opened up and helped me find, I guess my place and who I'm supposed to be.
That's awesome. Helps you find your voice a little bit. That's great. And I was curious about, there's a lot of people with social media handles that use the word nomadic or nomad. I wanted to hear more about why you chose the adjective mindful in, across all of your branding.
This lifestyle is just about being intentional, and that was originally our goal, is to be intentional with our family time, bonding. And so I just felt like when I did a brand change 2 years ago, and we knew that being nomadic was what we were doing. I mean, we're living the nomadic lifestyle and being mindful about how we live our life. And so that's how we kind of put it together. And so it's just kind of another way of being intentional and having an intentional living.
Share with us, once you guys hit the road and really had an intent of having a closer family unit and getting along with your teenagers better and stuff like that. How were those early months? Like, was it kind of as magical as you thought early on, or were there some growing pains, or what was that process like, like the initial move from a house into a small space together with, how many do you have total? 7 people.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Moving in, you're all excited and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. So on the second day of moving into the RV, I remember calling my husband up. He wasn't home at the time. And I was like having a meltdown going, I don't know if I can handle these small spaces, because we went from a large bedroom to a little bedroom. And trust me, at first when you're laying in that bed, and it even has that, ours has that dome thing, and it feels like you're almost laying in a coffin at first. I mean, I'm just going to be real. And so you're going from these big spaces to this small little room. And I literally was like, this is going to break me. I don't know if I can do this. This is not what I expected. And so I warn everybody that I talk to, there is going to be an initial getting used to it period. I mean, for everybody, I don't think our kids struggled as much. I remember struggling myself, but I don't remember them ever complaining and struggling that much. And, because they had the outside, they had the inside, and it was all new and great for them. So they didn't really, have much of a transition. But I remember particularly having that moment, and I was just, I didn't know if I was going to survive the tiny bedrooms. Now it's nothing. I mean, I can go from stay over at family's house and have this large bed and then come back to it. And it doesn't faze me anymore. But there was definitely an initial transition that took place.
Well, and it's funny too, like once you get used to it, get used to living in a small space. Like we live in a fifth wheel right now. And there's some days that I look at the smaller, Airstreams or something like that don't have slides, and your living room has to be the outdoors because it's just a smaller travel trailer than like this fifth wheel that we have. And I'll look around and be like, we really could live in a smaller space, and like maybe we would be outside more if we had smaller. I don't know if I had 5 kids traveling with me if I would feel the same way, but it's funny that your experience changes like as you go along over the years. Okay, so you're about 4 years into your RV journey, and I know you've traveled a lot. I'm curious to hear your top RV destinations with your family so far.
Probably so far, our top would be Utah. We loved visiting Moab. That was our favorite, in Bryce Canyon. And we recently took a trip to Savannah and loved everything about the charm there. And my kids really enjoyed Texas. We went out to visit some family out there, and they really enjoyed the scenery in Texas. So those would probably be our top three, but we have a lot of big places coming up the rest of this year. So I have a feeling some of those are going to get bumped off.
So I noticed you said your kids enjoyed Texas. Are you not that big of a fan?
I mean, I was. So where we went to visit was like a little bitty town that I didn't even know still existed, but you literally walk the whole town. They have cars, but it's just so small you can walk everywhere. And a lot of my kids really enjoyed that aspect of being able to just, go walk and not have to take a car and go visit your friends, because we were visiting family friends there, so they could just go walk to their house. It was kind of like a scene that you would see from way back in a movie. And so, I mean, it was fine. It wouldn't have been my top pick, but for some of my kids, they beg us, oh, let's just go back. We just loved it. So
what's your top RV tip that you find yourself telling people over and over? Or RV hack, or something you've done in your RV that's just made your life a little bit easier?
It would probably be that whenever you do the RV life, there's going to be a transition and there's going to be troubles. And you just have to remind yourself of your why and just keep going. Because, I mean, we get into it thinking that it's going to be a dreamy world. And there is a lot of great moments about it. But not every day is an adventure, and not every day is going to be dreamy. You're going to have problems, and you're going to have to change your schedule, and you're going to have a transition like we did, where you come in thinking it's all great, and then you realize that it's a lot smaller than you thought, and you have to adjust and adapt. And so I find myself reminding people a lot that you have to remind yourself of your why. You got to remember why you got into it. And in those hard moments, that's what keeps you going.
So about that topic, it sounds like at the beginning of the conversation, you said your why was like that closer family unit and, more togetherness and basically family love, going on. Do you feel like that's what you have found in RV life?
I do. I feel like our family has bonded in ways that we didn't imagine. I mean, so our oldest is fixing to turn 16 on Monday. And I feel like we have probably the best relationship with him that I ever imagined having with a boy and a 16-year-old at that. I mean, he comes to us, he talks to us openly, and that was the relationship we wanted, to be able to have that open relationship with him where he felt comfortable to come have a conversation and to talk about his goals and his dreams, girlfriends and friend problems. I mean, he really does, and I really feel like it was accomplished. If we got out of it tomorrow, we've accomplished what we wanted. We established those bonds. And then our younger children, they were adopted into our family. And so they have bonded with our family and we've become one unit. And, when you take a blended family and you put them together, there's always bumps in the road, especially a child that wasn't yours and it was adopted into your family. So, I really feel like we accomplished our goal. We're still accomplishing it. We're still working through some things. But it has proven true that what we got into it for, it has been worth it. And I feel like we have seen it come to pass.
Oh, I love hearing that. That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned that you have some fun upcoming travels. What do you guys have in the plans for this year?
So we are going to go visit the Great Lakes, and we're going to kind of go down the East Coast and do a little history travel. through Pennsylvania, and we're taking our kids to see New York City, which is a little intimidating for us because we're from the country, people, so we're a little intimidated by it, but I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good experience, and then we're going to get to go to Washington, D.C. So, we got some big places coming. I'm excited. I do most of the itineration anyway, and figure out where we're going and map it all out. And then the greatest thing is when the kids come and they're like, "So where are we going?" And you get to share with them, "Oh, well, we're going to see this, and we're going to see that, and we're going to see this," and then they get all excited. So I think we're going to be able to add some new places on our list of favorites and bump some other places off, I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure Williamsburg is on your list, but I just talked with a woman named Regina Kirby, and she mentioned that is her family's favorite place. They've been traveling for a few years now, and they just love that area and the richness of the history, and especially around the holidays, she said it's like really magical place. So I hope you have that in your list too. I have one more question to ask you, and then I would love for you to share with everyone where they can connect with you online, Gretchen. So the slogan for this show is a podcast about unexpected riches, and I would love for you to share what is the unexpected richness that you have found from RV life.
I would say it's our goal was family bonding, and I would say that was probably the richness that we found, is being able to grow together as a family, being able to see new places. Growing up, I didn't get to travel a lot, and so being able to see places that you only looked at in a magazine or you read about in a book, that is definitely a richness that I would say I'm enjoying giving to my kids, but also giving to me and my husband, being that we haven't been able to have all these experiences as children. So there's definitely a richness in being able to see places that you read about in the history books, or that you read about in the magazines, or that you can look at pictures of, or see that on Instagram that other people have been, but get to see it for yourself and experience it has been an absolute richness for our family.
Oh, I love that. How much longer do you think you guys will be on the road?
We kind of take it year by year. So we check in with our kids, and as long as it's still working for our family dynamic and working, with our finances and our jobs, we just keep trucking. And so I don't foresee us getting out anytime soon. Now, things change, things happen quickly, so you never know. I won't say never, but as of right now, all of our kids really enjoy it. As a matter of fact, our oldest two tell us all the time that, when we talk about, one day getting a house, they're always the first ones that go, "Well, I'm not interested in doing that yet. I still have more places I want to see. I still love, living in the RV. I don't think I want a house yet." So honestly, as long as they keep feeding that, we're going to be like, "Yeah, okay, we're going then."
Awesome.
So, so I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I love how into it kids get. They're just such sponges, They just learn so much at from the hands-on history and science and all that stuff. So that's very cool.
Yes.
Okay, well, will you go ahead and share where people can connect with you online?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram at The Mindful Nomadic, and also on TikTok at The Mindful Nomadic. You can also find me on my blog and website at www.themindfulnomadic.com.
And we will have all those linked in the show notes as well. Well, it was such a joy chatting with you today, Gretchen. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I hope to see you on the road. Thanks for listening to the RV Queens podcast. If you would like to be on a guest on the show, click on the link in the show notes to the guest application. And if you would also please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like the video, that would help us out a lot. Thanks a lot, and I will see you on the road. God bless. Keep your daydream.